Now, everybody who's watching, let's get RBT to
1 million
subscribers by Christmas. He's the best Madden scientist there is. I subscribe to him, and if you don't subscribe to, your favorite team is going to lose to the... I refuse to say that team.
My Madden 21 honest review, and dude, this is about to be interesting. We've now had about 2 weeks to play Madden 21. They have come out with a few updates, but I do feel like at this point in time, I have a pretty good gist of how this game is going to be moving forward. At the same time, with me doing this for a living, I have a pretty good gist at how things are right now at the current state of Madden 21. Now, I do know they have some planned updates in the future, but I'm going to review the game as it is right now, because yes, it is good that they are planning on updating a lot of the bugs and a lot of the things that are wrong with the game right now, but at the same time, you have to review the game for its current state. They decided to release it how it is, so that's how I'm going to review it. Let me know what you think about Madden 21 in the comment section below, but if you're one of the weirdos that are going to bash me for freaking uploading game modes, like, you're a freaking weirdo. Like, what weirdo gets mad at a grown man for what he does on his YouTube channel? Like, bite me. Starting off with the worst of the worst, and that is franchise mode. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. The reason being, like, franchise mode is still enjoyable. It can be enjoyable with it being, like, you know, a friends type of franchise where you have some friends, some buddies playing, because the online franchise mode you got to be thankful for, because there's a lot of games like FIFA and like 2K and MLB that don't have options to play online franchises with your friends, but that's about as far as it goes, because franchise mode has so much wrong with it. Number one is exactly like it was last year. Yes, they are coming out with updates, and I'm very disappointed because I thought the updates were supposed to come out pretty soon, but from what I've heard, they're not going to come out until like October or November. So that's a big stinker. But literally, it is copy and paste from last year like never before. Yeah, we always meme it that it's a copy and paste, but it literally is a copy and paste from last year. The only difference is the updated rosters, pictures for the rookies, the updated schedules, and that's literally it. It's so bad they literally in the first year franchise mode still say it's Super Bowl 54 when that was played between the Chiefs and the 49ers in February of earlier this year. So just the lack of detail is very disappointing from a billion-dollar company. Like, just how copy and paste it is, the little things like that, the franchise freaking saying you're playing the Super Bowl 54, like you're going in the past to play in the Super Bowl. Like, and I know a lot of people don't think that's a big deal, but it's the same time, man, like, it's just, like, that kind of stuff should never be a problem in a game made by a billion-dollar company. So the franchise mode, the only reason it even gets a 2 out of 10 is just because you gotta be at least a little bit thankful. Like, you gotta count your blessings even when things are bad, because, I mean, it's the only sporting game out there I can think of right now that does have an online franchise feature that you can play with friends. But that's literally as far as the positives go. Still problems with the trade logic. There's still problems where you can't even freaking sign a free agent, like, to a multi-year deal or even change the salary throughout the season. That's still a problem. In the draft, you can't even see who's been picked until the draft is over. So a lot of problems with it. It's still a stinker, so it's definitely one of the worst things about Madden 21, and that's a 2 out of 10. And I say it's one of the worst things. I think something that actually could be worse, but I'm going to give it the same exact rating. That's face of the franchise, and I'm going to give that a 2 out of 10. And honestly, 2 out of 10 might be a little bit too high, because this is honestly, in my user experience, I can't speak for other people, but one of the biggest disappointments in a game mode that I've ever been hyped for in the entirety of my life. Just because you were expecting so much out of this game mode. Like, they were adding in from last year, which I thought it was an okay game mode last year. It wasn't great, but it was okay. It was a fun alternate experience for people that's never been able to do something like this. But like, at the same time, they were adding in a second season of college. You were able to play high school football, go at the combine and run the 40-yard dash, and then storylines into the NFL season, and yet somehow the game got worse. The mode is a million times worse. The bugs are absolutely just insane. The fact that I know they're fixing it, I don't know if it's been fixed yet, but I do know in the last patch updates, they did say this thing they are looking at fixing very soon, is where you let fate decide on your draft pick, and every time you do that, you get picked by the Bears every freaking time. So that, like, literally takes out 99% of the fun, knowing where you're going to get drafted unless you actually force your draft pick, but at the same time, you know where you're going to get picked regardless. That takes out 99% of the fun and makes, like, everything pointless. But they are going to fix that to make things a little bit better, but still, so many things wrong. Like, playing through it, I picked, like, a Lamar Jackson archetype in high school and in college. I had a skateboard, got to the league, Didn't even have it anymore. I picked to like play my game after Lamar Jackson. I get into the league and I'm 66 speed. Also, like it doesn't matter what you do. Like every decision you make, every game you win, it doesn't affect anything. You could win every single game in high school or every game you start in college. You could throw for literally, like, not exaggerating, 105 touchdowns a game, and yet you'll still get benched by a guy with a heart condition. Like, number one, like, who even clears a guy with a heart condition to play football? Like, what does that even mean? Like, literally throughout the game mode, you are named the Heartbreak Kids with your buddy Tommy, who literally has a heart condition. Like, could you have not thought of a better name for a duo than the Heartbreak Kids when the guy literally has a freaking goddamn heart condition? Like, come on now. So a lot of the storyline literally just does not make one bit of sense. Like, you can lose a game and then it immediately goes to a cutscene saying, hey, that was a great game from you guys. You could lose 105 to nothing, and it'll still say that. And oh man, the draft process is the worst thing possible. The fact they hyped up running the 40-yard dash for the first time since Madden 2008, and literally, after all that hype, all you do is press 3 buttons. You literally have to press X, Y, and left trigger, or it might be right trigger, in like a 5-second span, and it's predetermined every single time. If you hit all those 3 commands, which you'd have to be Helen Killer to not be able to hit all 3 of those commands, depending on what position you go into the draft as, whether it's quarterback, running back, wide receiver, your time is predetermined. You run the 40-yard dash the same exact time every single time you do it, if you're quarterback, wide receiver, running back. It's a 4-4-6 for quarterback, I think it's 4-3-0 for wide receiver, and 4-3-4 for running back. So right then and there, like, what's the point even having that in the game? You get into the draft, like, I was a 7th round draft pick trying to see how low you could get drafted. I was a 7th round draft pick, yet at the draft, I was still there. Like, what 7th round draft pick do you see actually go to the NFL draft? What NFL draft pick do you see in the 7th round get drafted, go on stage, and hold up a jersey that has number 1? No, you've never seen that before. 7th round draft picks are nowhere near actually being at the NFL draft. And then the storylines once you get into the NFL, like, make no sense. I forced my pick to be the Tennessee Titans. In, like, the second year, my rival, the Texans, that I had to play like 5 times a year, had Khalil Mack on their team. Like, when me and him were trash talking the offseason, I was talking about how I stole his teammate Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson does not play for the Texans. He plays for the Bears. So why is the game so stupid that, like, they can't tell the fact that Khalil Mack obviously is no longer on the Bears? And also, they made such a big deal out of the Texans in that face of the franchise signing freaking Janoris Jenkins. Like, he's such a superstar. Dog, Janoris Jenkins is like 48 years old, not even that great anymore. It's like, why was he, out of all the freaking potential players that, like, they could code into the story mode, like, to be an integral part of it, why Janoris Jenkins? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Oh, it even gets worse in the NFL. Like, I can go 14-0, and it sends me to the game where I have to play the next moment, and then after that, it just sends the rest of the playoffs. Every single year, it's like predetermined whether or not you make it to the Super Bowl or not. Like, you can go 14-0. Another thing is, like, I'll be 14-0 on the year, and it will say I have to win and I'm in. Like, dog, what team do you see lose a game at 14-0 and not make the playoffs? Like, there's so much attention to detail was just missed out on, and it's just sad that, like, this game mode has so much potential, and I just genuinely, like, I mean this from, like, a good place. I don't mean, like, I'm never gonna be a person just to bash somebody or bash a company just to bash them, but I genuinely mean it when I say I have no idea how a company like EA Sports, with the resources that they do have, like, played the game mode, played it through, had their testers play the game mode, and didn't see all these glaring just glitches and bugs and details that should be fixed. Like, literally, you have to be Helen Keller to not notice the problems wrong with face of the franchise. So I just had to interrupt the video with some breaking stuff. Like, what the fuck is this? Literally 70% of you that watch my freaking channel aren't subscribed, dude. Like, all you gotta do is click the goddamn button, and my videos suck that bad. Now, let's get on to some good things for once, because I don't like to be negative just to be negative. The positives, I'll talk about the positives, and that is the yard. I genuinely do think the yard is a 9 out of 10, and I think the yard is the best game mode that EA Sports have created in the past 10 years. Literally, it's something we've been asking for so long. There are some glaring, like, details wrong with it, some glitches, some bugs, and I'll get to that later. But the only reason I don't have it as a 10 out of 10 is because it still doesn't have the feature where you can play friends versus friends. You can play with 2 other friends on your team, but you can't play 3 friends versus 3 friends. But the yard, literally backyard style football game, the greatest thing I have seen from EA Sports in a long, long time. And I think, like, even if you hate Madden in general and just don't like the gameplay, I feel like still there's so many people that have never played Madden before that can just genuinely enjoy this game mode with their friends. Like, I have nothing else to say other than it's probably the best thing EA Sports has done in a long, long time. Now moving on to Superstar KO, kind of the same thing as the Yard. I know a lot of people don't like Superstar KO, and Jesus Christ, dog, I didn't even know it was a potential possibility that when I made a Superstar KO video, I was going to have 100 people tweet at me telling me I'm a freaking scumbag for literally playing a goddamn game mode. Like, dude, freaking grown men mad at a man for playing a game mode. Like, what are you doing? But anyways, I think Superstar KO is a fun game mode. It's a non-sweaty game mode, and people can just chill, have fun with their friends, not take it too serious, but at the same time just be casually enjoying themselves. Now, the reason I have it at a 7 out of 10 is because it's basically the same as last year. They haven't added in any new teams, so I'm sure they're going to do it throughout the course of the year, but I am very disappointed that the team selection, the head coaches, and everything are exactly how it was at the end of the Madden 20 cycle, but I think eventually, once they add in new teams, it'll be just as fun. I am glad they do have new X factors in it, like you can get Tyreek Hill, Ezekiel Elliott, or a few that I can think of off the top of my head, but I don't think it's even nearly close as the Yard, but I would give Superstar KO like probably a 7 out of 10. Now next, Madden Ultimate Team. And Jesus Christ, the amount of you that are obsessed with the Ultimate Team game mode, and if anybody plays the game, you're a scumbag. Like, you're just a freaking weirdo and need a psychiatric evaluation. Like, who are you to tell people what they can and can't do? Like, bite me. Like, anyways, I give Madden Ultimate Team a 6 out of 10. Because for the people that don't want to spend money in the game, there is still so much stuff that you can do, and I am impressed with the amount of content that they did have in the game at launch for people that don't want to spend money. A ton of solos you can play, a ton of packs you can get for absolutely free. Yes, obviously, it's still basically, I would consider a pay-to-play game mode, but just the mere fact there's so much stuff you can do at the beginning of the game mode, I do give it nothing crazy, but a 6 out of 10. It's nothing fantastic, but definitely a 6 out of 10. Next, we have head-to-head gameplay, and I'm actually going to give this right now a 7 out of 10. Yes, there is a ton of inexcusable bugs. Like right now, the head-to-head gameplay is actually a decently enjoyable experience. There's no crazy meta that makes the game unenjoyable right now. I mean, obviously, this is how Madden is every single year. Every year for the first month or so, it normally goes to the gameplay is pretty enjoyable for everybody because there's no meta. There's no somebody's found out the best things to do, best plays to run, so you don't see everybody run the same exact play. So like 3 months down the line, it gets kind of boring because you see everybody knowing what's the best thing to do in Madden, so they run the same defense, same offense. But as of right now, I do think the gameplay head-to-head is relatively enjoyable. That doesn't discount the bugs that are in the game that are inexcusable, but just genuinely the enjoyment from a head-to-head game, I would say, is a 7 out of 10. Now that does get to my overall rating. This is probably, I would say, if I would have done this video for the last 3 or 4 years, the worst rating I would give a Madden, I think ever, and that's a 5.5 out of 10. Simply because of the inexcusability from franchise mode, face of the franchise, and all the bugs that were at the game. Literally, I would not have been surprised if somebody told me they released the wrong build at launch. There were so many glaring bugs that it's just, like, so many just misspellings. Like, just the lack of detail is just ridiculous. The fact that it still says Super Bowl 54 in franchise mode, like that kind of stuff is just so inexcusable. And there's so many other bugs as well, like the wrong names popping up for players, misspelled team names, misspelled jerseys, like the Photoshop in the freaking like pre-game screen is cringy how bad it is. It's just so many, like, not even debatable things wrong with the game. It's glaring glitches, glaring bugs that I genuinely, once again, from the greatest of places, like in constructive criticism, I just don't know how a company with the resources they have tested and played through this game and did not realize the bugs and glitches they had in this game that were inexcusable to have at a launch date. So that is just the mere reason why this game is rated so low. On top of that, face of the franchise and franchise mode itself are just literally, it's a joke. Like they seriously are a joke. And I just don't know how they did release this game knowing how big of a joke that those two game modes were. I just really freaking hope they patch the glitches and stuff, because right now, honestly, like, this game is just a really big stinker.